Hey everyone, it is Lou here from Click Love Grow, and today I'm so excited to be chatting to the wonderful Dana Whitley. Dana, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's always fun to chat. And in fact, we're streaming a few minutes late because we were chatting.
We were chatting.
Always fun to catch up. So, Dana, you are one of our well-loved members of the Click Love Grow community. You live
Oh,
in St. Louis, Missouri,
yes.
which we were just chatting about. And we really loved seeing, your photos of your boys. In fact, you were a CLG mentor on one of our
Mhm.
workshops as well. So today we're going to share some of your images and talk about, what you've loved being able to document using photography to document your boys. But can
Yeah,
you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually came to Click Club Grow?
absolutely. So my boys, let's see, when my youngest was almost one, I just was finding that I was taking pictures and so many pictures. And some of them I would just surprise myself and they would look good. But a lot of them just didn't quite match what I was hoping that they would look like or what I was, I guess, envisioning in my head. And I was starting to get kind of frustrated with it. So I started just like Googling online and being like, taking pictures of kids, like documenting your children, photography for kids. And somewhere in the search engine, it popped up and I got an ad for Click Love Grow. And it was for the 5-day free
Mhm.
kids challenge. And I was like, oh, it's perfect. That's great. It's going to change my life. So, so I did it and I loved it. And then after that, it prompted me, and I found out that there were courses that followed it that were way more in depth. And I was so excited. And we were a little tight on money at the time. And so I asked my husband, I was like, can you just not buy me anything for Christmas? And can I sign up for this course instead? And he's like, absolutely, of course. And so I did it and I never looked back. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so glad that you found us in your searching. And I think many of us can
Me
relate
too.
because that's how we start out, right? The frustration of not quite, getting the shots that we want and wanting to take photos of our kids. So very glad that you found us. And that Click Love Grow turned up for you. So you took our enthusiast course and then you decided to jump into the advanced course. What were the aspects of the advanced course that you really loved, especially in terms of taking photos of your kids?
Yeah. So after I took the enthusiast course, I felt pretty confident in using manual. And I was getting some pictures that I enjoyed and I felt a lot better about it. But what I was hearing about the advanced course was that it was way more in depth, and I just wanted to keep learning and I wanted to keep growing. And so I jumped on board with that, and it just blew my mind. Like there was so much that I never even like thought about or considered. And even though I could shoot in manual, like taking the advanced course just like opened up a whole new world for taking pictures of the kids, and it was fantastic.
Beautiful. So we're actually going to have a look at some of your photos. And look, it's hard to choose, Data, because
I know, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to see which ones you picked. I don't know.
pretty sure I chose them all, but it is hard to choose because you do create such gorgeous images, not just of your boys, of lots of different things. But can you see that on the screen? Um,
Yeah.
Oh, this is such a sweet photo. One of the things I really love about your images is the storytelling that is included in the images and the details that kind of, bring you into what's happening at that time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have lots of things I love about this photo, but tell us about this photo and why you love it.
Yeah. So we got our first family pets in December. We got two cats. And they love to sit at the front door. And this cat here is Clark's cat, and his name is Thor, and he is
Oh,
just absolutely absolutely obsessed with him. And he's such a good cat, and Clark picks him up and carries him around. And it's just so, so sweet to see them bonding. So whenever I see them together, I try to grab a photo of it so that I have that documentation. And whenever we open the front door, Thor loves to just like sit and look out the window and see the world going by. And so I snuck out the garage door and was standing out in the front yard with my 85 millimeter. And my son here came and sat with him and was petting him and looked up and saw me. And yeah, it was just like the sweetest little moment of them chilling out together. And I loved the fingerprints on the glass and the worn wood around the door and the reflection of the houses in the background. And yeah, it was a really just like sweet little moment that happened.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous. And I love that all those details that you just said, that's part of the story. Like as mums, we don't have clean windows if we have small kids in the house. Like that will come one day. It's not right now. So
a little tip there is I never ever clean my windows. I never clean my windows because I love the storytelling that it gives in photos when it catches the light and you see all the fingerprints and the nose prints from your kids being at the windows. And I think it adds such beautiful story and texture, and it saves me from having to clean the windows. Yeah. So
there you go.
It's a
win-win. Watching, Dana and I are giving you full permission
to never wash your windows again.
Yeah. It's a photography tip. I love it. And in your images, here's another black and white as well. Your black and whites are so rich and gorgeous. You are able to create beautiful storytelling images that still feel like portraits. You know, it still gives us a sense of the viewer, and you create that balance really well. So I love this one here in the window. And in a moment, we'll have a look at your before as well.
Okay.
Can you tell me what it feels like to look at, you know, a photo like this, which is still a beautiful mom moment, right? We're still always going to love these pictures of our kids when they're little, but to see the difference in what you can create, how does that feel?
It's really astonishing. Like you said, I still love the before picture. I can see faults left and right with it and things that I could have done a lot better, but he was playing with a toy. He had the funny hat on. He had his sweet smile on, and I'll always love it.
Of course.
But, you know, it was just a quick capture in a very bright pocket of light on his face there. But to be able to, you know, see this photo and think, okay, well, I love the light coming in this window. I'm going to leave the blinds in the foreground to give a little texture and some layers. And my kids both love laying on this bench that's in our window in our bedroom. So I always find it to be the perfect spot for portraits because they hang out there. Like a lot of times they'll come and they'll sit there and pet the cats, or they'll lay there and look at books, or just hang out and look out the window. And so I love taking portraits there because they do hang out in there and the light is so beautiful in that window. And so it's one of my favorite places to take portraits of them because they're so comfortable there, you know. And you know, they're in their home in a place that they hang out. And so I love being able to take the time to kind of figure out the different technicalities and make sure it's straight and the light is nice and there's layers. And if I'm going to do black and white, I want to make sure I take this picture on a day that he has, you know, pajamas on that have a pattern, so that'll pop with a black and white. And I can just kind of pick my moment for that and be able to capture something that's very timeless for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's so true about capturing kids in places where they feel comfortable. And this is something that you've talked about before, particularly in your workshop, is, you know, allowing kids or taking photos of kids in a way that doesn't overwhelm them and allows them to be who they are and to get them involved in the process, which I think you do really beautifully. Hello to Colleen watching. Hey, Karina, she's listening in from WA. So good to have you here. And if you are watching live, shout out and say hi to Dana. So jumping into a totally different style of photo. Of course, we also love in your images, you just play with light. So Can you tell us about this shot and why you love it? And then I'd love to know too, you know, was this something that you got to explore more in the advanced course, you know, and that you brought into your photos?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone who has taken my course or watched any videos that we've done together, Lou, like I'm incredibly inconsistent in my lighting. I just am. But it's just because I want to capture what's naturally there. And I love so many kinds of light. And you know, I never really considered light as something that could really change a photo very much until I took the classes. So in the advanced course, we went through all different kinds of light, and it really helped me to kind of open those up and explore those. And I watch light in my house now and through the seasons, how different like patches of light fall different places and how I could use that. And I try to just embrace the light that I have there and what mood this is. So this is obviously really different light. But I learned about both of them in the advanced course, and I think they both really fit the mood. We get, in our backyard in the summertime, actually like right now, this time of year, we get the very last bit of light before the sun sets. That's a really thin streak through our side yard into our backyard, and it's only like maybe 6 feet wide, and it just shines like a spotlight. And so I just moved the hammock over there, and the boys were just like laying in the hammock, and they were looking at books and playing with stuffed animals and talking and giggling and carrying on. And so I just wanted to capture their feet specifically with that last bit of light from the day behind them. And
So
yeah,
beautiful.
it's totally different, but I love it.
I love the little toe here too. It's so
Yeah.
it's so gorgeous. And you say inconsistent, but really, your approach to embracing the light that you have and then finding a way to bring it into your images, I feel like it is quite consistent across your work because you're able to balance it in a way that works beautifully. So here's another one where you have the light, you have the shadow, but the composition of this is so strong that it allows all these other textural elements to really be the hero of the shot.
Mm-hmm. I love this photo. One of his summer jobs is helping to water the plants, and in the summertime with the leaves, like when the wind is blowing, we just get all these patches of light and all these like streaks of shadows we have really big trees in our backyard. And obviously here I was more focused on my composition. And I totally missed the fact that he was just like dumping his entire bucket
I feel like
on
that's the
one
best part.
little plant. But I ended up loving it, and that's the one I kept. But I think that the light and the symmetry here is just, I don't know, it's just really interesting, and I really like it.
Works so well. And those grasses at the bottom of the shot, just adding that extra element of texture and color, it all just works so beautifully. And framing him in between the windows, which is something you do in quite a lot of your shots. Actually, you always frame with a lot of strength in either windows or doorways, and I think for childhood photography in particular, because kids are messy, and emptying buckets of water, it's such a nice storytelling piece because you have that orderliness of the composition, but then the fact that kids aren't orderly, that works together so beautifully.
Thank you, I appreciate that. A little thing for anyone who follows any of my photos, a lot of that, some of that in certain places is not accurately portrayed. Like any of my series of photos that I take of my kids on our back step on the patio with the bay window behind them, I have gobs of pictures of them sitting back there. And the windows are symmetrical, but I always take it into Photoshop and copy one side and then flip it onto the other side
Ah, there you go.
because this bench here comes into the bay window and I don't like how it doesn't match the symmetry. So I always copy the other side and then cover it
Perfect.
so that you can't see the bench. So
There you go.
just being able to be mindful of those things,
Mm.
I think has helped a lot in just
But
knowing that I do want that symmetry and how to achieve that.
and having those skill sets or those, up your sleeve when you want to be able to do that. And in fact, we do actually, or we are at the moment, Emma's Photoshop workshop is also being included as a bonus for the
Ooh,
as well. So we do cover Photoshop and Lightroom in the advanced course, but of course, Emma is so talented on Photoshop. It's great to also be able to include her workshop as a complimentary one, because it's so good to be able to know how to do those things. Here's
yes.
another one. Taken inside. Light is the hero here. Tell us about this photo and why you love it.
Yeah. So this is another favorite spot of mine in the house. It's right on the other side of the bay window. So this is like our dining area. And we spent a year homeschooling the kids, and there was so much that happened at this kitchen table. And one of the things that happened this year was that the kids learned how to play chess. My husband taught them how to play chess. And so it was a great, like, engaging activity for them. They really loved it. And so I really wanted to, like, kind of capture that stage that they were in of doing that, just like sweet classic, I try to always capture them like playing board games or chess or checkers, just those like really timeless, quiet activities. And, you can see my son here, just like, I remember just sitting and watching him waiting for an expression, because he just takes so long to move his piece, because he's just like staring and thinking through what could happen. And you just see this look on his face as he's processing all of it. And I really didn't want to forget that moment and that stage that he was in. And then I chose to include my other son with a low aperture, so that way he would be all blurry and his body is kind of framing my youngest there. And so I really like the depth that it gives, that it's blurry in the background, it's blurry in the foreground. You can see what he's doing. You can see that inquisitive, curious look on his face, his sweet little hands on his face. Just all those little details mean a lot to me.
Oh, so gorgeous. That's a very cool chess set as well.
Yeah, it's a Harry Potter chess set. It's a chess.
Much fancier than the chess set that we have at home. It's really sweet. And you're right, there's so many elements here that make it work. Even the fact that your son in the foreground, he's wearing those dark and neutral colors that kind of blend into the table. And so you have that framing from a depth of field perspective, but it's not distracting in any way. So all the elements there work beautifully.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, here's our last one.
Oh,
like I said, we could go through your photos all day because they're so beautiful. Again, using the window, but your tones here are really beautiful and they create a very different look in the image. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is so with the tones that I use and the colors that I use, it kind of goes along with light. I very much try to just use the reality of what's going on when I'm editing. So if we're outside at sunset, my photo is going to be a lot warmer and a lot, just like richer. And this day, everything was really kind of like dull and kind of like cool colored, because it was this really stormy day. And so I just embraced it, and I didn't try to change those tones or change those colors. I just embraced what I had. And I feel like it fit the mood of the environment. You can tell by looking at the window that it's moody outside, it's stormy and it's raining. So I wanted to keep those tones and that authenticity. So yeah, he was just looking out the window and enjoying the storm roll through. And this is one of the few moments I put my 24 millimeter lens on so that I could capture that window in the foreground. I keep that lens, I keep that lens almost exclusively for taking pictures of them in a window. But yeah, I love this. I love this moment.
Oh, it works beautifully. In fact, I'm looking out my window. It's a very similar day here
Yeah.
today. But you're right, like all the details on the window, I think, and you know, he's got wet hair, and then the curtains are really similar tone as well. It all works really beautifully. And I love how, you know, you capture images of your boys in such unique and interesting ways that aren't, you know, they're all around the house. They're all in the locations where you live. And yet they have these beautiful different feels to it. So I love how you're able to do that. Colleen said, it's nice and sunny here in Queensland. I'm very jealous, Colleen. Kelsey said, hi, Dana. What lens do you typically use day to day?
Day to day, yeah, that's a great question. Day to day, my favorite lens is my 35 millimeter. I feel like it's wide enough that I can capture a story with it, but it also takes really beautiful portraits if I get up close. If I'm taking a portrait outside, I typically switch to an 85 so that I blur all the distracting things in the background. And then indoor for something like this at a window, or anything that you guys see like in my bay window in my kitchen, I use my 24 millimeter for so that I can get as much of the scenery, you know, in my house, my window. So as much of the story in there as I want. And, you know, it lets me focus really close. So it kind of allows me to move around and, find what I want, but keep a lot of that background in there that I want.
Yeah, it's great having the versatility of those wider focal lengths so that you can get up nice close and include more of those storytelling in it, which is fantastic. So here we go. Pam has asked, do you ever have a specific vision and then a process for planning and creating that vision?
Sometimes. Sorry, that's not a like really great answer. So something like that photo of my kids on the hammock outside. I had a vision for that. We really were outside playing at that time of day, but I knew I wanted to include that light. So I moved the hammock into where the light was, and I stood on that side so I could shoot the setting sun. I didn't have really a plan other than that. I was like, hey, why don't you guys come play in the hammock? Dex, you can read Clark a book, just something to like occupy them so that they laid there for a few minutes. Because they have quite a lot of energy sometimes. So I will try to like prompt them with an activity to move them where I want them to be. Or in terms of like the photo of the black and white of my son in the window in my bedroom, you know, I knew that I wanted that photo, but I waited until he was wearing a pair of pajamas that had the pattern in them because I knew I wanted it to be black and white. And so I wanted that extra pattern and texture detail in it. So the beauty in taking things at my house is that I'm not really on a time limit. I may see light there and I might be like, oh, that's a beautiful patch of light. I'll have to remember that that's there. And then I may wait for the right moment when, oh, you know, that outfit would photograph beautifully in that. And then at that point, I would be like, oh, hey, can you come sit here so we can talk? Come sit and tell me about your day or come read this book. So I'm not really in much of a hurry usually because we live here. So I watch the light and I know what I want pictures of, but I just wait for the conditions to be right. And then I might encourage them to come hang out in the light and do some kind of activity.
Yeah. And I love that you have a patience around that. You know, how you said when you were taking the chest photo, there was a specific, you know, time and activity you wanted to capture, but you also knew that that expression was important as well. So you had the patience to wait for that because that was a really key part of the story as well, of bringing that photo and that vision to life.
Thanks. And they, you know, like they play chess quite a bit. and I knew I wanted a picture of it, but I didn't need a whole bunch of picture. I don't need a picture every day of them playing chess. So, when they're playing chess on our like nasty stained carpet, you know, I just hang out
Not
and
the
watch
day.
them. I don't get the camera out, and then when the light is nice and they want to play chess, I'm like, oh, where a great place would be? Oh, here, let's put it on the table so that you guys can, not knock it over or come up with some random excuse of why it needs to be on the kitchen table. So just having that awareness is helpful for me, that I don't need pictures of it every time it happens. And then that way I can wait for the conditions to be right to capture that memory.
Yeah, perfect. And I love that process that you have with your kids and that you bring into your photos. So talking about the advanced course, I would love to know for you, what were some of the aspects that you loved from the course that, you were able to bring into your photography?
Yeah. So I think light has just been huge. Like, just knowing that there are different types of light and being able to figure out different ways to harness that light to invoke different moods in my photos. Taking a light inside with side light is very dramatic and it can be really moody. And it's totally different than taking a photo with like this really dramatic backlight from the setting sun. It's just a completely different kind of photo. And I love just being able to watch for that and know how to use it and how to bring that mood in those things. If I'm using backlight, I'll probably try to get like something a little more carefree or something a little sillier. I take pictures of like my kids playing in the sprinkler or with the hose, because I know that water reflects beautifully in a backlit sun, and a moody expression is not going to be the same in this really bright backlit photo as opposed to window light. So I love being able to recognize the different kinds of light and know how I want to use them for my mood.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, and I think that's true, going through the different techniques that are available, and how to use that in telling the story of the photo, because you're so right. Different styles of light will absolutely, match or suit different styles of images. And so for anyone who's watching, we're talking all this week about the advanced photography course, and we're super excited to kick off with our next round on the 27th of September, which is not far away. Do you have any words of inspiration or advice?
Do it. Does that count? It was really hard for us to make that commitment financially for us in the place that we were in at that time. But it is the best decision I have ever made for myself. Like, to be able to capture my kids month after month and year after year, and just knowing that I'm going to be able to document them in the way that I'm seeing it in my head and the way that I want to remember those moments, and being able to be in control to do that. And now I just have like, boxes of loose prints in my house. And I just love that. I love that I can know that I want to capture a certain expression and in a certain light, and that I can make that happen. And I couldn't have done that before I took these classes. And it was the best decision ever. And it taught me so much of the foundational skills that I needed. And then can I talk about the group? Can I talk about the like advanced group? So I learned so many foundational skills in how to do things. And then the continuing education and the challenges really showed me, that's something they do in the group when you're a grad. It really showed me that once you know those things, you can break them and it's okay. You can do that mindfully. And so now, if I'm in a room and I'm like, oh, this is really cool toned light because of the rain, I don't try to warm it up to try to make it a correct temperature. I'm just embracing what's there, even if it might not be technically perfect. it's what I want. So I think it's really cool that you can learn those foundations and then you can creatively break them mindfully.
Yeah, absolutely. And that
So
purposefulness is so true, you know, and we cover so many things in the advanced course, but you don't always have to use them all. It's about finding the techniques that work for the photo or the light situation you happen to be in. But we're so proud of your work, Dana. You have, you know, are just a beautiful photographer, and we love having you as part of our community as well. So big thank you for sharing with us and for chatting with me today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. I always love it.
Always fun. And to everyone watching, we have one final interview tomorrow for our Through Her Lens series with Melise. So join us back here again tomorrow. And of course, you can catch any of the replays from our wonderful chats that we've had this week on the Click Clock Grow Facebook page. They're all there in the video section. And of course, if you are interested or thinking about the advanced photography course, send us a PM, send us an email. I'd love to chat with you if you have any questions at all, or go to the website, join the waitlist, and you'll actually get an early access link. And so welcome to everyone who has jumped in via that early link. Very excited that you will be joining us. Colleen, thank you for being here. Kelsey says, hey. Karen, great to have you here. Hi, Corey, listening in from Canada. Enjoy the rest of your day or your evening, or wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you again online very soon. Bye.
Bye.